Welcome to this session. This is the ArcGIS Enterprise on Amazon Web Services. My name is Cherry. I work at the ArcGIS Enterprise team and I'm a product engineer. I have my colleague Kanika here. She's also a product engineer on the ArcGIS Enterprise team. I also have Mark and Derek from our Esri Global Business Development team. Before we start, we like to do a quick survey. You know who we are. We also want to know who you are. You know, it's always exciting to know our audience. Just raise your hand if you are a GIS engineer in your organization. Half of you, thank you. And are you a system administrator in your organization? Good, thank you, a quarter. Are you a manager, you're a decision maker in your organization? Quite a lot, thank you. And you're really wearing multiple hats. Most of you, yeah, thank you. Are you already a cloud user, already in the cloud? Nice, most of you. Like which cloud, right? Amazon? Good. Azure? Good. Google Cloud? Alibaba Cloud? Huawei Cloud? Any other cloud, you just shout out the name? Thank you. Are you running Esri development on it already, the deployment on Amazon? Good. Are you using the tools we provide, like using our images? Good, thank you. Are you actually just from scratch start a machine, do the deployment yourself? Oh, thank you. Hopefully after this session you start to use our tools. How about your knowledge of Amazon? Do you consider yourself an expert for Amazon knowledges? You probably are. And how about, you good enough to get by? Thank you. And or you're just starting? Good. We have a good mix of the crowd. And thanks for coming, and hopefully you all find this session helpful. This is our agenda. First, we'll start with what we offer for the deployment tools on Amazon. We will focus on some features that we have like new, since last Dev Summit. Some might be even a little bit later after the 10.7. And then we will talk about, after your deployment is set up on Amazon, there's some native Amazon features that we take advantage to better serve ArcGIS Enterprise. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. In the end, Mark and Derek will share their experience, their case study. They use our tools that we develop in their work, and then their experience using it, their lesson learned, the tip and the tricks. Hopefully that's, it's always nice to share the experience with each other, with the community. Before we start, we take a picture of ArcGIS Enterprise. You can think of ArcGIS Enterprise in two categories. One, on the left side is deployment, how you set up your infrastructure. We have setups, we have Enterprise Builder, different automation tools. And for Amazon Azure, what's so special is we provide special tooling, work for that environment. For the right side, right, there's after your deployment is set, there's a GIS workflows, your services, your items, your users. There's those category as well. In this session, we'll talk both in both categories. We first started with Amazon tools that we offer for deployment. First of all, of course, you can use all our automation tools on Amazon. These tools and the setups of the Chef and PowerShell DSC, they are cross platforms, they are cross environment. You just start an EC2 instance and just use these tools, and just like on premise. But what's so special is the special tooling we provide on Amazon. The most fundamental one is the Public Esri image. These are the images we build daily with our daily software, and we test it daily. And then at the release time, we release the official different versions of images through the Amazon marketplace. We always want you to take advantage of these images. All the tools I mentioned next, actually using the images that I just mentioned. Next tool is the Esri CloudFormation template. You probably already know CloudFormation is a native technology from Amazon. Amazon has a bunch of CloudFormation template samples to deploy different architectures, different infrastructure. What we do is we provide templates to deploy ArcGIS Enterprise, which we know the best. These templates, each stack, they create an ArcGIS-based enterprise, either HA or server. And at 10.6, we released the Cloud Builder CLI, the Cloud Builder command line interface, which is a one-run, take a property file, deploy the whole infrastructure, base enterprise plus federated servers in one command. If you're with us a while, you know we have a server Cloud Builder, which is a nice little light tool to deploy ArcGIS server on Amazon. 10.6.1 though is the last release for this tool. Instead, we are working on a new ArcGIS Cloud Builder GUI application to deploy the whole ArcGIS enterprise, not just ArcGIS server on Amazon. On this whole spectrum of the tools we provide, more towards the left, give you more power, more customization. It's highly customizable. And then towards right, is for simplicity. It's easy to use. It's less options to customize, but it's easy to use and quick to start with. Next, Kanika is going to give you a demo about this new tool, the new GUI tool that we are working on. Go ahead, Kanika.
Hello everyone, I'm Kanika and I'm going to give a demo today on one of the deployment scenarios. I'll show you that not only can we deploy servers as in previous releases, but we can deploy ArcGIS Enterprise going forward. So let's see how the application looks like. This is the login screen. You can either log in using the Amazon key credentials or your AWS profile that you have stored on your computer, and you can log in. Once you log in, you see your existing deployments. Obviously, if this is your first time logging in, you won't see these deployments and it would be a blank list for you. But let's see here, there is a list of existing deployments and expand one of them. You see that the key features of the deployments is listed, and also you see the output of the deployment. We provide basic management functionality for these deployments as well, like start, stop, delete, and create similar. The create similar functionality is a very nice functionality to have. It lets you create an identical deployment, but you can modify one or many settings that you want. For example, let's say that you have a working QA environment and you are happy with it, but now you want to move to production. So you choose create similar. Or let's say you want to create an identical deployment, but in a different data center for disaster recovery purposes, then you choose create similar. Today, we are going to create a new deployment. So let's select add deployment and move next. The application asks you whether you want to have an ArcGIS Enterprise deployment or a standalone server deployment. As in previous releases, you can choose standalone server for ArcGIS server and ArcGIS image server deployment. But now going forward, we can choose ArcGIS Enterprise based deployment. So we are choosing that today and saying next. Then the application asks you what kind of a deployment you want. Do you want a single machine or a highly available one? So that's an option too. Let's choose single machine base ArcGIS Enterprise deployment. Also, the application gives you an option to add additional federated servers to your base ArcGIS Enterprise deployment. These are the servers listed. You can choose one or multiple. Let's move ahead and see what's coming next. Here you need to give the configuration values for your deployment. So select a region. Where do you want your deployment to be? Select an operating system. Then you need to give a deployment name. Also, you need to provide network configuration details like VPC. you can choose a previous existing VPC, or the application gives you an option to create a new one too. After you have given the key configuration values, you can move ahead and proceed from here. Now the application is configuring your EIP. So we'll specify a site domain and an SSL certificate that is associated with your domain. You can upload the SSL certificate to the S3 bucket and pick it up from there, or also you can browse to a physical path location. After you have given the SSL certificate password and the EIP, we can proceed from here. Now we need to give the ArcGIS credentials, your PSA account, the username and the password, also your ArcGIS Run as Service account. For that also you need to give the username and the password. These are required for the ArcGIS Enterprise configuration. So after providing these details, we proceed from here and say next. Now we need to give details like how big your instance you want, what size is the drive size root. So you need to provide machine configuration details. Also, you need to provide the license file for the portal to authorize portal for ArcGIS, and you need to provide server license to authorize ArcGIS server. Again, these SSL files can be uploaded to S3 bucket or can be browsed to your physical path location. Another thing is the config store type. So you need to specify whether you want the file system or the config store type for your deployment. This specifies whether you want your portal content store and ArcGIS config store in S3 bucket or EC2 instance. After you have selected the config store type, we move next, and we see now that the summary has been created for your deployment. You can verify all your settings, all the inputs that you have given, and then choose to say Save Summary. What does it do? It creates a JSON file that you can give as an input to your command line script and can automate the deployment later, or you can choose to create the deployment now itself. The deployment process takes a couple of hours, but once it's complete, it's listed in the deployment screen. Let's see that this all-in-one deployment is complete, and when we expand it, we again see the key features and the output of this deployment. The management functionality that we talked about earlier is available to you, and you are ready to go from here. Thank you. Jerry?
Thank you, Kanika. You just saw the demo. This is a quick wrap-up for ArcGIS Enterprise Builder for AWS. This is a nice GUI tool to deploy ArcGIS base enterprise with federated servers in one deployment. It's easy to use. As Kanika showed you, the server strict configuration can be, the JSON file can be used with the CB-CLI we previously released for automation. And the server cloud builder we had before, the only deploy ArcGIS server, 10.6.1 was the last release. If you're on server cloud builder before, we provide documentation to help migration to CloudFormation deployment. From there, have a chance to catch up with the latest technology, going forward with us again. And this ArcGIS Enterprise Cloud Builder can also create a server stack as well. So it's not like you are losing anything. And one thing I want to share with you is this is an off-release cycle product. It probably come a little bit after 10.7. And then what you see might not be exactly what you saw right now. So, we'd like to share with you, though. We want to hear you how you feel about it. And then let us know what you think. And then we still have a chance, might be able to get to the product. So really want to hear your opinion about it. Next, let's talk about our public AMIs. On this spectrum, right, public AMI is this what we offered through Amazon Marketplace. We always want you to use this AMI to start with. Even if you cannot use any other automation tools, still start with our images. we put a lot of effort into it. We build it every day. We test it, we tune it, and we wanted to use it instead of from scratch to use it, build it yourself. And as every release, we have the new version of AMI. We not just a new version of the software. We still work on it to make it optimized, better to use. Let's take a look at what we did for 10.6.1 and 10.7. And the 10.6.1, we have two images, Windows with SQL Server Express and Ubuntu with Postgres. If you've been with us, we used to have 3 AMIs. We cut the Windows with the SQL Server AMI. It's because, Amazon now they have an offer of a database, the RDS for SQL Server. That's a better option to use instead of running a database on a standalone machine. And similarly at 10.7, we will have a Windows AMI, but do not have a SQL database, not SQL Express. And for Ubuntu, we also do not have the Postgres database on it, because Amazon also have this offer of the Postgres RDS, which is also a better option than running a database on a standalone machine. If you probably know we used to have a EBS data drive on our images as well. On Windows is the D drive, and on Linux is the data drive, the GS data drive. At 10.7, we removed that data drive. We had this drive, was before it was when we were with Amazon for a long time. At the beginning, Amazon's the C drive, the root drive, was just not that advanced. You do not always have a copy of it, and it is hard to expand on the fly. So we made this D drive as a default, for your data, for your important configurations to be saved. But over the time Amazon evolved, their C drive is just as good as D drive. It can be saved, can be expanded on the fly. So we got rid of the D drive, so our image is lighter, it's more efficient, it's faster to use. Another minor change is that we used to have an ArcMap and ArcCalc for data management. At 10.7, we changed it to ArcGIS Pro. For the new regions or new instance types, as Amazon offer them, we continue to support them, offer them. One region, right, at the end of last year, Amazon had this new region, the Gulf Cloud. They used only to have one region in the West for Gulf Cloud. They added the East region by the end of 2018. We already have customers asking, where's our images in this new region? Actually, what we are doing is that, as soon as their marketplace support this region, we will be there. Somehow it takes them a while to support that region. And as soon as they support it, our images, also our tooling, the CloudFormation, everything will be supported in that region as well. Some other thing with the already released AMI we share with you is we've been going through this process. It's a lot of work, and it's pretty tedious to patch our released AMIs. Not only the latest OS updates, but also the ArcGIS security updates to apply to these AMIs. It's a lot of work goes through the testing. We almost done. We are at the last phase. And then all our images out there in the marketplace should be up to date with all the security patches. This is something new at 10.7. Actually, we are still working on it as well. Private build image. Let's first take a look at what it is. We were saying, right, we want you to start with our public images because it's very fundamental. But for some reason, if you do not have access to this image, or you just can't use it, you are not able to use any of the tooling we provide. Then some people might ask, right, why people cannot use the Public Esri AMIs? First of all, different operating system. Right? We have Windows, right now it's Windows 2016 and Ubuntu. Some people just cannot use that. Some organizations, they have used different version of a Windows Server or different flavor of Linux. So they cannot use our images. Another is for security. Quite a few organizations are saying you cannot start with Esri's image. You have to start with our master image from our security department or from our IST, where we have all our monitors, our securities, everything. So those people also cannot use our images. And then those secret cloud, right? The most of us do not have access. Those clouds do not even have access to the internet. Even internet have very limited access, very strict policy. They do not have access to Amazon's marketplace. Of course, they don't have access to our images. Actually, these requests come in actually is more often than we have expected. It's a pretty popular request. We realize that, and Amazon also realized that. Amazon right now, they have a private image service that's in beta. What it does is basically the user, you provide AMI, your master AMI with your operating system. And Esri, we provide a package. Basically, it's a script. Then Amazon use that to configure your image, to create a new private image that's very similar to our public image that's only available to you. The script we are using in this, it's really from our script that we configure the public AMI, as you can, and you understand. It's, of course, we have to cut it something, but that's pretty much what we use. It's quite a lot of work too, but we are in the final testing phase for that as well. This Amazon service right now is in beta, and we will support your AMI, that operating system is Windows Server 2016 and 2012 R2. This is a new thing for us, and if you have that request, you have that problem, share with us, and we can help you enroll to this beta service. Give it a try to see if this meets your requirement. What other things you'd like to see that we can work on, including we will move on Linux next. Then which Linux flavor you want us to work on first? All these feedbacks will be very valuable to us. Next, I'll quickly talk about CloudFormation templates and the CBCLI. The CloudFormation templates is a pretty mature technology. Since we first had it from 10.3.1 until now, the workflow didn't change much. Every single release, we still do a lot of work, how we deploy through our templates. But as an end user, the user experience is pretty much the same. I mentioned earlier, right, the CloudFormation technology is native to Amazon. Therefore, this technology integrated with Amazon's service very well. It's supported by all of their SDKs. So it's the new technology come out, it catch up really quick. And then whenever there's a new fix, that come in really quick as well. So it's really flexible for us to catch up with their new offerings. And also because they integrated with their SDKs and everything very well, so it's really easy for Amazon user to use for your automation or for your, because your deployment to be part of, integrated with your own deployment. If you use Amazon SDK, you use Amazon's other services, CloudWatch or Monitor. So that's a big advantage there. At 10.6, we released this CBCLI, which is really calling the CloudFormation templates I just showed you, but put them together, make it a one run. You have one command run with one property file, deploy the whole infrastructure, base enterprise with federated servers according to your need. This, in a little bit, Derek and Mark will talk about this too as well in their real world experience. Next, we'll talk about Upgrade. How many of you think Upgrade is a fun thing? Not really. It's a pretty heavy task. Before we always say, we have nice tools help you deploy, help you, quickly set up. You're good to go to do your GIS workflows. But when it comes to Upgrade, right, just do like what you do on premise. You log in, you run setup, exactly following the documentation like on premise. That works, but we always want to help in that, automate that as well, to give you a quick, easy way to upgrade as well. It's a pretty heavy task to take on. We have been working on it, and we're still working on it. It's a progress, over releases. Right now, just share with you, where we are and what we have done for 10.6.1 and 10.7. At 10.6.1, we call it semi-automated. What that means is you still need to do some manual work. For example, you still need to get 10.6.1 setups from MyEsri. You need to get a license file from MyEsri, which is probably a requirement always going to be there. And then you upload these license file and setups to S3 bucket to your running instances. What we provide is for base enterprise deployment, for standalone or high availability, we provide a script, a command. It's one command in Chef running command for an in-place upgrade, which will upgrade all the components on that instance, portal, server, data store, web adapter. You do not need to run setup on single one of them, but you still need to run this command on every single machine. And for the ArcGIS server stack and a spatial temporal big data store, they are in the auto-scaling group, so it's more complicated to upgrade. For that stack, we provided a CloudFormation template to help you to upgrade. So we call it a semi because you still need to do some manual work, but a lot less than before, because together with the tool we provided. Then at 10.7, it's even better automated, further automated. What happens as a user, all you need to have is really just a new license file. For portal is the JSON file. You probably know by now, right? 10.7 portal totally rekeyed. You need to get a JSON file. It's not a PRVC like before anymore. Server, even though it's still PRVC, but you still need to get a new version of the server file. That's all you need. How you do it is you run update CloudFormation stack, which is command from Amazon, using the template provided by us. That's all you need to do. I'll quickly show you how that works. Like here, I have a bunch of stacks from before. The one highlighted one is 10.6.1 final. And then I want to upgrade that guy to 10.7. In CloudFormation service, you pick update stack. And then CloudFormation will ask you which template to use to update the stack. This template is provided by us. Ignore that URL because 10.7 is not officially released. This is really like internal URL we're testing with. When 10.7 became available, this will be public available with the new templates. And then we'll ask more questions, right? All you need to do is give the new server license file, give the new portal license file. Don't touch anything else. There's also one question asking about policy file. This policy file we also provided, and we highly recommend you to use it. In theory, you don't need to, but in reality, we really want you to use it. What does it do? When you update a stack, there's some resources we do not want it to be touched. For example, the file server, where your config store is. We do not want CloudFormation to get rid of the old file server, generate a new file server. And that means that your config store is gone. Some of these resources we really wanted to be preserved. So this policy file, that's what it's helping with. So some resource telling the CloudFormation, do not touch it. And then that's all you need. You just click on update. And then updating process, that's first you'll see. Depends how big your deployment is. Longer or shorter time, update will be complete. And then your deployment is at 10.7. This is the general user experience we have for upgrade at 10.7. A quick wrap up for upgrade. At 10.6.1, we consider it as semi-automated, which means there's some tooling from us help you with some parts of the work. It's a lot easier, less manual work for the in-place upgrade. but it still need to run on every single machine, and you still need to set up a license file from Esri. At 10.7 is more automated using the update stack. As a user, you just need to take the license file. One thing you probably will ask me this too, just want to share with you. I mentioned that the semi-automated is from 10.6 to 10.6.1, and then the better automated one at 10.7 to 10.6.1 to 10.7. That's what we recommend you to upgrade with, because that's what we designed, we tested, we had more confidence in it. If you are like you are on 10.5.1, actually, I would still recommend you to use the manual upgrade, because that's not, we're just not as confident in those workflows as in the 10.6 to 10.6.1 and 10.6.1 to 10.7. Next thing is this, at 10.7, and when we mentioned you only need a license file, you don't need a setup anymore. One thing we share with you is because we implemented this ArcGIS software repository. What it is just a central location for all the Esri software. Because you are on Amazon already and you have access to our public image, you already have deployment, we know that you have access to our setup as well. So we set up a global ArcGIS software repository. At 10.7, it's only accessible when you are on Amazon. So you don't need to worry about that part anymore. When you upgrade, we know which software to take and which software to apply for the upgrade. That's what we have for the deployment. You know, I really talk a lot about deployment. Next, when we move to the GIS workflow, not as many as deployment. That's because, you know, after you set up, it's ArcGIS Enterprise. It works the same as on-premise. You know, all the documentation, how those GIS workflows work the same in the cloud. There's some features that we can share with you because we want to take advantage the cloud features that can better serve ArcGIS Enterprise. This is one slide, but it actually has a lot of information in it. You probably know that some component in ArcGIS Enterprise is very important, like the portal content store, ArcGIS config store, server directories. They are all very important to the ArcGIS Enterprise deployment. We require them to be highly available. On-premise, the file share, you know, make sure that's highly available. On cloud, actually you have some resources you don't have on-premise. For example, the Amazon S3, which is managed by Amazon. So you already have a highly available storage there. So we implement those for ArcGIS portal content and for config store as well. And these like S3, you want to use it not just because it's highly available, it's also because it's highly scalable, right? You can almost consider it as unlimited space, which you probably don't have on-premise. So it's a very good fit for caching, for big data input, for raster analytics, this big data input. At the beginning, we implement this feature to support Amazon S3 and Azure table blob. And then we added Alibaba Cloud and Huawei Cloud Storage. Another thing new is if you have a storage that's S3 compatible, for example, if you have like a secret cloud, right? If you have S3 there, or your private cloud, as long as that cloud say they are S3 compatible, that could be used as cloud storage that you can register in the server manager for caching as well. For the other big data input, just it shouldn't be too much for us to implement, but so far we only hear the request for caching. So that's what we use it for. If you have other requests, let us know as well. Then just quickly share with you this, when we use S3 for caching and we did some performance testing. Of course, this won't be as fast as the local drive right attached to your machine. But the performance is, how do I say, it's similar to ArcGIS Online. When you use ArcGIS Online, you are okay, fine with that data, with that performance there. Then, you know, S3 is a potential good choice for you as well. Another feature we implemented is, you know, you already know we support a Postgres RDS, we support a SQL Server RDS. we have tools to create a geodatabase against this database and register to ArcGIS server as your geodatabase. At 10.7, we added support for Amazon Aurora. We have also same workflow as the other two databases. We have a script to create a geodatabase against Amazon Aurora and register to ArcGIS server. You can just use it as a geodatabase. We added this support also because of request from users, right? This is the Amazon native database. They're coming from Amazon. It's cheaper compared to the other two is because it's really elastic. The charge depends how much you use. And then because it's native to them, they're always on top of that, right? The new features, the new improvement is always getting implemented there as well. So, user really wanted to support Aurora, and then we did it for 10.7. Those are the features I want to share and highlight with you. Next, we'll move to Mark and Derek for the case study. Before I hand it to Derek, I just want to say that we would like to hear your story as well. It's always nice to hear your stories. It doesn't have to be the successful story. It would be nice to be a success story, but it could be also a lesson learned. Share with the community, share with each other. We have user conference come as well. There, we not only have technical sessions, we also have special interest groups, and we love users to share your story, present your story, or maybe even co-present with us. So let me know if you have a story to share. Love to hear from you. Next, we'll give it to Derek about their experience.
Great, thanks, Jerry. Could you switch to 4 really quick for me? All right, we're going to walk through how we use these tools in a day-to-day operations practice that we've developed in Esri. Just a little bit about what our kind of mission is. Mark and I both work in global business development, so there's thousands of folks that work on that team across, including distributors as well across the world. So in short, our mission was to develop and deploy and manage an enterprise JS environment for all of those folks. The requirements, which at times, make Mark and I sweat and get a little bit nervous, is to deploy this stuff as fast as we can. We get a lot of last-minute requests. And it's not just a single machine that we're deploying. It's generally, it could be the whole stack, including all server roles. So we're talking a lot of machines for a specific need, including apps as well. Some more like kind of internal requirements that we focus on are keeping costs down as much as we can. That translates into OS choices or database choices. We love Linux. I'm just going to throw that out there right away. We just really enjoy that price point. There you go. Get your beer later. So we'd like that. We do a lot with Postgres in terms of databases, although it's, everything's working great. There we go. The other aspect of that is that we try to keep these environments on only when they're needed. So that's probably our first question we have when we talk to someone that approaches us. We're like, is this needed during business hours only? Is this something you're doing just for testing? So all this really kind of plays into the your deployment practice, and we're going to kind of get into how we manage that. And then lastly, of course, minimal downtime, upgrades, patching. We want to make sure that we keep our SLA up for our customers. So kind of backing up a little bit, how do we even think through how we're going to tackle this challenge? We leaned really heavily on this white paper, highly recommend it. We still refer back to it from time to time. But what it really helps you do is sort of document and understand these best practices for implementing ArcGIS. Everything from automation, high availability, workload separation, and what's been really helpful is that the Enterprise Cloud Builder CLI scripts really do a great job of handling all of these best practice requirements. So for, from the poll that we discussed before, all the managers in the audience, the GS managers, you may start to hear some of the business value bubbled up from this from folks that read this, which is great. It's really nice to know that if you're going to spend some time to develop out a DevOps practice or an operations practice, that projects that you're creating are going to really impact the organization in a positive way just by dedicating some time to think through that. So I highly can't say enough about that. It's something from a DevOps perspective, you're continuing to refine and learn and refine those processes. So kind of where all the fun happens, we may have a request come through and we do a little bit of what we call discovery. We try to understand the problems that the customer's having. What are we deploying an environment for? Who's going to be using it? What are the hours of uptime? What are the capabilities needed? What kind of security do we need to have? So all of that goes into designing kind of a solution architecture, I guess you could call it. So what we'll kind of talk through now is an example around an environment that's geared mainly for analysis and image processing. And from this is a pretty common request that we get where we'll be asked for something that can handle, image server, image requirements, as well as raster analytics requirements. So from this perspective, Mark's going to walk us through how to deploy enterprise and the server roles for geoanalytics, image server, raster analytics, and then getting back to those, the uptime or availability perspective. That's something as well that we'll kind of make sure that geoanalytics as well as something like raster analytics is available for when it's only needed. There's no reason to have those machines spinning and incurring costs in the cloud when they're not going to be used. Right? So again, having business hour availability. We'll talk through some monitoring, monitoring information. I think there's another ArcGIS Monitor session tomorrow if anyone's interested. We use it extensively across all of the machines that we have stood up. And then, of course, are developing a plan for upgrades. So from there, I'll let Mark kind of walk us through it.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, Dirk. So essentially what we have here is kind of an example. So we have identified all of the server roles that we need for ArcGIS Enterprise deployment. What I like to do is make this architectural diagram so I kind of have in my head straight, what are we needing to build here? So we'll look at, the whole ArcGIS Enterprise, the web adapters, portal, the hosting server, the data stores. We're then going to federate the GA server, image server, and then if you see here, we have two image servers, but one's going to be my image hosting server, and then the other one's going to be my raster analytics server role. This is our workload separation. That way, all that workload that's for raster analytics is separated out. The template's also going to, build out my spatial temporal data store for me. It's going to produce this cluster and execute it. So this is what it looks like, with the software architecture. What does it look like in AWS? So here, this kind of as an overall scope, I have my VPC already built. I got my two availability zones, my subnets, with the internet gateway sitting there as well with our route tables. So first, what the template's going to do, we're going to look at, our ArcGIS Enterprise with the spatial temporal behind an autoscaler. And then it's going to register that for me automatically. And then it's also going to create another security group for my GA site, my image site, and my other one for my raster analytics. And then it's also going to register my S3 buckets for me. So that then, raster analytics has a place to put all of its processes. Like Cherry said, we have all of these deployment patterns available to us, and I'm just going to be focusing on this one here, the CLI. We've been using this since the 10.6 release of it, and it's been working. It works out great. There are some prerequisites to this, and we do have the create processes that we can run. You gotta make sure that your S3 buckets has all your license files in there. Your VPC is created. If the elastic IP address, make sure you have that predefined already as well. And the templates ask for that EIP address. And then make sure that your load balancer is also created too. And we have CloudFormation templates that help you with that as well. And the other thing too that you want to make sure is that you have your certificate loaded in the certificate manager of AWS. This will allow it to authenticate properly. And then just as an example, this is my S3 bucket that I've been using for all my deployments. What I can do is I can use this one bucket for all my deployments across all the environments. Once I get the AWS CLI installed on my laptop or a server, I've made this folder called deploy files within the configuration of the CLI. What this allows me to do is to just quickly reproduce that JSON file that I need to execute. So my environment one, say if I already had an ArcGIS Enterprise with a couple federated servers already, I just create a copy of that and then just modify the JSON file to my current deployment and updating it to the current VPC, elastic IPs, and DNS. And we can look at that on my next slide here. So this is the example of the JSON file. This is the 10.7. And as you can see, we have some new categories here. We have our file server instance type, and we have now included the new generations of the M5 machines before we limited it to the M4s. These are now available at 10.7. We have our application server instance type, and then our application instances. So these are the number of servers that are behind that load balancer for that. And then also our new portal license file, that JSON file that we're going to call out. And it is the user license type ID. This is another item that was new at the 10.7 release as well. So we're going to kind of break this JSON file down a little bit. So the deployment name is what shows up in your stack, in your CloudFormation stack, so that you can monitor it when it's being launched. The AWS credentials are the credentials that are on my local machine that I'm using to execute the command. And then as you see here, these are all those other prerequisites that we were looking at, the VPC, my key name that I already have pre-configured in AWS, my bucket that contains all my license files, and then that certificate for my load balancers to use. And now you kind of, more into the meat of it is, hey, this is my ArcGIS, my base enterprise, single machine. So this is this type all-in-one is the web adapter, portal, server, relational, and tile cache data store, all in one single machine. The next one, the image hosting server, what this does is that it sets that server role within my portal configuration for me automatically. And same with the raster analytics and geoanalytics. As you guys see here, I just kind of put in my load balancer name. This is not the DNS update that you have to do. This is actually the load balancer name within the AWS configuration. Just to note that. So once that JSON file is complete, I just run the CLI from the Cloud Builder folder, and I call that JSON file that I have, and I hit enter, and I can actually watch the log on the DOS prompt as well, as you can also watch it in the Cloud Stack as well. It'll say, building, and then create complete. So this is kind of what it's going to look like. So it's going to federate all of those servers that I had in my stack for me. And it's going to assign that server role within my portal. So all of this is done just with that one JSON file that I executed. So once our environment is up and running, what Cherry's team has really done for us is that it also comes with these Lambda functions, already as well. So what we can use these Lambda functions is to start and stop this environment, only when it's actually needed to cut down on our costs. I do that through the CloudWatch. So what I'll do is I'll set up a cron job to start and another one to stop. And all I have to do is call out that Lambda script that's associated with that stack, and it will either turn them on or turn them off. And it's important too, because what's going to happen if I choose the base enterprise deployment, it's going to remove those spatial temporal data stores too. It's going to stop all of those, but it's going to do it in a sequence that I'm not going to lose any information. That way, and then when you start it back up, it's going to scale them back up to what I had pre-configured. So these are valuable. It's already built in, and I can just call them. Before, I would call them out individually, but it's just as simple as just calling this Lambda script. And we do use ArcGIS Monitor on all our deployments that we have, because this really gives me an insight into if anything does look like it's not working, or I get notifications, email notifications right away. And I say about 90% of the time I get notified first, and then I'll fix it, and then they don't know any different. So it's been a success for us. I was really excited about this when this came out. The upgrades. It was always a manual upgrade before. I had to go to each machine. I had to upgrade them. This was really exciting. I can just follow these steps that they have lined out here. And this is all available online through the CloudFormation templates, 10.6.1, and you can read through this, and it will step you through upgrading your environment. I was able to upgrade. I had a 16 machine deployment site, and I upgraded it within a day. It is still semi-automatic. I still had to go in there, and run them, but just following these steps. Within a day, I had it was all upgraded. Whereas before, it would have took me, probably about a week or so just to kind of implement that upgrade. And I had to put this in here because this is really important too, because the auto scaling portion of it too, which really helps out because I didn't have to do this manually. I just use our CloudFormation script. So what happens is I do my upgrade, but now I have all my servers behind my autoscaler. Well, what this does is this resets my autoscaler to grab that newest version of ArcGIS server from the AMI, and then so when it autoscales up, it'll grab that new deployment, that new version for me already. And before it was kind of a trick. You had to, be more of an Amazon user in order to really figure this out. But they've really made it easy for us to implement this autoscaler upgrade. So with that, from the design concept to, creating that JSON file to deploying, we can get this system up and running within a matter of, a few hours. From the time that they ask us to deploy this. It's pretty quick, it's reliable, and we know it's going to be up and running for them. And then also, scheduling these things out too, which is very important, for, assuming those costs, just making sure it's only available during a certain time frame. And then we set up Monitor to make sure that, it's up and running when they expect it. And we can, see if anything is happening within the environment. And then we have a good upgrade, going forward. And I'm looking forward to using the 10.7 upgrade. So that's going to be good. I hope we covered what you were expecting during this talk. Please take the survey. And we would really love to hear from you too, because from, the private AMIs that we want to try to leverage to, even the upgrades too, because I know we get a lot of feedback on upgrades, just always trying to enhance that experience for you. And with that, we'll take some questions.
So you have the load balancer with the certificate manager provided certificate ID, but in addition to the certificate itself being uploaded to S3 and being used by Tomcat, if it's coming through the load balancer, is there really need to have the certificate in the servers themselves?
So the certificate that just a single machine deployment with the web adapters on there is going to use that certificate, that PFX file. It's only when I have a multi-machine site behind that load balancer, the certificate doesn't reside on those machines. It uses that the certificate manager authenticates the SSL through the load balancer.
So my organization, they're really tight with giving up the certificate information. So we have the ID for the certificate from the AWS certificate manager, and we put it in a load balancer, and as long as we put everything behind the load balancer, we're okay, but then trying to get the certificates themselves to put on the servers is a challenge.
Yeah.
For that, actually, like for the best practice, what we recommend, take a wildcard certificate. That in that case, you only need one certificate that works for all those same domain with a subdomain. That's what would be really handy. Yeah.
Yeah, just really quick on the wildcard cert. That's if we wouldn't be able to get done what we have in front of us without it, because it's to try to get certs for each time you have to launch a machine is just not. It just doesn't. You'll have you'll be backlogged. So.
Is the PowerPoint going to be available for us to go and look at? I'm looking at, for example, some how to set up Amazon infrastructure. The second one is you mentioned that the database being Microsoft SQL or Postgres will no longer be embedded. I know, for example, DataStore uses Postgres. Will DataStore, for example, use the one provided by Amazon, or will it use the one that is
Okay, the first question is if these slides going to be available. I believe so, because they collect from us every year to share with the users, the participant. If not, you can email me and we'll share with you these slides. And the second question is, because we do not have the database on the instance anymore, and then what's the support for those Amazon's? Actually, that's the one thing our database team did a lot of work with is we used to have the ST geometry, right? That's what we require. What they did a lot of work, they support the PostGIS, and they support SQL servers. I'm not an expert on that special type without copying the SD geometry. So they really ensure those RDS, all these flavors RDS work the same as when you have a database running on an instance. You don't lose any functions for that part. Okay. And next.
You mentioned all the new stuff that's coming with the 10.7 AMI. With each AMI, you just improve it and add new stuff. But if I'm say started on 10.5 and I'm upgrading, I'm still sort of stuck on that original AMI. Is there any way of without having to restart everything from scratch, getting all the benefits of the new AMI while still following an upgrade path?
I think there are two aspects to that question. One is, I started my deployment in 10.5. I'm now using your new AMI. Do I lose anything in that case? And the second of all, that you support upgrade from 10.6 to 10.6.1, 10.6.1 what if I meant it before? What's my upgrade process? The first part is when you use the previous AMI, when you probably use some functions there. Probably 10.7 do not have the optimized feature, but whatever you used before, when you upgrade, all those features will still support. The upgrade will always support this. Like the 10.7, we say we do not have the database on it. But if you use a previous one, you have the database running on a single instance. That upgrade path is supported. that infrastructure is still supported. And then for the second one, I understand we say that we still recommend you to do the manual upgrade. That's kind of a similar question to we get when we in the automation session. I manually deployed. How do I take advantage of your automation tools, because you say whatever you do, you upgrade with that same tool. Similar situations here. If you have a lot of applications, then probably manual upgrade is still the way to go with, because you don't want to lose all those resources. But we have some customers, one day with a new version, you have two choices. One is upgrade. One is start from scratch and then republish your services, and it depends if your resource is very heavy. So you got to weigh which is better for you, it's in that way. And then after you upgrade to this, if you scratch from start a new deployment with a new version, then from that moment on, you can take advantage of some other features. Go ahead.
So in our section of DoD, a lot of our systems are Rails. So are you, I guess, for the private tools, Red Hat and Linux would be a recommendation because everybody's trying to move to the cloud right now. And then two, I guess, what is the timeline on the private tools getting released to the government, so that we can use it?
Let me try to repeat it. What's our support for Red Hat Linux on Amazon? Is that right, the first question?
No, for the private build, Red Hat.
Okay. For the private build that we offer the Windows at first, those two OS. The next, we are evaluating the request. We will do Linux next. We are trying to pick Linux flavor. I'll take that request and maybe we can talk more. For example, if Amazon Linux, would that be an okay choice for you as well? We try to weigh all of these flavors, but let us hear your story. Yeah. Go ahead. You repeat the question first.
So the question is the deployment for the HA. Yes, there is a deployment pattern for that as well. I just didn't show it up here as an example, but there is one out there. If you go to the CloudFormation template page for the Amazon on our site, there is a CloudFormation template for that specifically as well. Yeah, everything is up there, and it's all well documented for that.
We'll take the last one because we're about to come here to talk to us, but go ahead.
That 10 7, you limited it down to new license file server, new JSON file. And going forward from 10 7, 10 7 1, 10 7 8, and wherever we go to eventually, is that always be the same case where you're going to have to provide new license file, or are you going to build in, it's all online anyway, I guess, we'll go off and look in the back end, see if we can get new license.
So the question is, at a 10.6.1 to 10.7, we only require user to have the license file. From 10.7 to forward, what would be our requirement is, first of all, we got to see how the new software turned out to be. What's the requirement there? Second of all, we do prepare this framework, make it easier to upgrade. But I think the license file, we probably always have to ask you because you have to purchase from Esri, right? So we probably will always ask you for that part. Maybe the question is if I give you some of my customer information, what I qualify, what I can do. That's an interesting scenario. Maybe we can consider that. We need to work with the customer service. That's not always very easy actually to see their database. Because there's some work we need to do here, but that would be a good requirement. Yeah.
Red Hat.
Oh, okay, good. Red Hat or CentOS, that's what you prefer. Okay, good to know. Thank you. That's the end of our presentation, and you have more questions. We can talk more. Thank you.